Hello and welcome to Worth Purchase, where I play a game for exactly 1 hour and tell you if I would buy it with my own empty pockets. In the dock today we've got Valis, the Fantasm Soldier Collection III. This is currently only available in Japan and you can grab it from the Japanese eShop for 8,580 yen, which is about $58 US. Or since this is Physical Paradise, it is available physically as well, but as I'll say one more time, it is currently only in Japanese. If it's anything like the last two collections, Limited Run will probably have dibs on the English version once they can be asked. But to be honest, I'm not entirely sure either the Japanese or English versions will make it worth it. I think my patience and benefit of the doubt has kind of run out for these releases because it's fairly meager as a package, all things considered. It actually has more than other packages, but I don't think you should be rushing out to add this to your collection. For a start, we have two versions of Valis 1, and I tell you, there's probably a reason we didn't get these versions up until now, because Valis Collection 1 had the incredibly impressive TurboGrafx CD version. It was a remake and it was fantastic, while the second collection had the Mega Drive version. Well, now we're going backwards even more and scraping the barrel. Famicom and PC 8801 versions, the latter of which is the original version that all other versions spouted forth from. I guess that's intriguing, but having played a handful of PC 8801 games before, let's just say I knew exactly what we would be getting. This is as smooth as a pineapple from a council estate. It's borderline unplayable in 2023. A curio? Most certainly, and I am happy I got to try it in an official capacity. Yes, because emulating PC 8801 games has been an official pain in my arse. But still, this is a pile of gaming misery. Okay, for 1986 on a personal computer, it's probably good, but we have played a lot better on the NES from the same year. Well, thankfully we have the Famicom version, and yes, it does actually play like a proper, manageable game, even if the design isn't particularly great. It's quite confusing as a game because the whole map is like a big maze as you go up and down alleyways, and it's a game you either need to find a map for or try and make one yourself. And it plays fine, if a bit snail-like, since you either have to dodge the endless enemies or spend ages picking them off. Maybe later levels get more interesting, and I would be interested in playing it more to try and get further. It's not unbearable, I'll say that. I'd have probably played it as a kid. In terms of Valis 2, remember we already got the TurboGrafx CD version on Collection 1, and here we're delving back into the janky world of personal computer platformer, this time on the MSX2, which is a capable machine, but I don't think it's widely known for platformers. However, don't worry, it's not as bad as Valis 1, it's actually fairly alright, but it'll still not be my preferred way to play the game. We also have Valis 3, this time on the Genesis, which for me is the most interesting game in this package. Sid of Valis, which was also on the Mega Drive, was perhaps the starring show of the second package, and if any console could do 16-bit Bishoujo action game justice, it would be the Mega Drive. Sadly, despite having a stage different to the TurboGrafx CD version, it's also had content removed. I mean, how can a cartridge possibly compete with a CD? So this is more for those who are nostalgic for this, since it did actually release in North America back in the day, but if you just want to play the game from scratch, you're better off with the version that's in the first collection. It's just better. Super Valis 4 is a Super Nintendo game, if you hadn't gathered already, and some of you may have already sampled this on the Nintendo Switch Online. It's been on there for quite a while. This one has sort of been disowned by most Valis fans as not being the official Valis 4. It's quite different from the TurboGrafx CD version, and while being different isn't a bad thing, most will say that it's not as interesting either way, and I kind of agree. It's just long corridors of almost nothing. Together, they are all action platformers, all of them retro difficult apart from Super Valis 4, which has a beginner difficulty, thank you very much. But aside from that, they all require learning exactly when enemies are going to appear and how exactly to deal with them. They each try to add story elements, which was still quite a unique thing back then, but due to these being lesser versions, those elements have been sacrificed too. I mean, look, the TurboGrafx CD versions, they are the best versions. They have voice acting, they have the cutscenes, they are brilliant, kinda, I mean they're good. These are just lesser versions. So yeah, it's technically a 5-game package. The issue is that the games represented here are just worse versions of games you possibly already have, and if you don't, well, you should consider those over this package. This is a bunch of curios at best, an exercise in gaming preservation, which, is commendable. I wish every version of every game ever made was readily available, especially the lesser versions, because they always get thrown to the wayside, even if they have interesting aspects. I like seeing the differences, but not at this price. This is not gold, okay? Collections 1 and 2 had their merits. They're really high points. This is really almost bottom of the barrel. I mean, I would definitely buy them for a few quid if they were on a virtual console, for example, but not for what is essentially like $11 or $12 a pop. That is too expensive. And all in all, look, I just wish all 3 of these volumes were together in one package. I like the series, even if some are more enjoyable than others, but God, this could have been less of a money grab. One volume with all of these versions together would have been 100% essential for retro gamers, but right now, it's so difficult to see the value. I mean, Valis is good, but it's not gold and shouldn't be treated as such. After 1 hour, where did I get? I just ran down another endless featureless corridor in Super Valis 4. If you want to purchase this physically from Japan, check the links below, or you can wait for Limited Run's inevitable limited run of it with the English one. Remember, one more time, there is no English right now. These are story-based action platformers. However, if you're aware of most story-based action platformers from the late 80s, that's kind of guffage, okay? It's not very important. You're here for the gameplay, okay? And the gameplay is better elsewhere.